I did the reading last night and enjoyed it, but I I read it quickly and then I thought, oh, I'll go back. Hi, Noah. I read it quickly and I thought I'll go back and look up all the words I didn't know and or didn't really know what the full weight of them might be. So I went back to the first chapter and got to the first word, which was Martins and Lauds. I thought, oh, I know what they are. They're prayers at certain times of day, but I don't know what they're about, and I wonder if that would, you know, reveal anything more about the chapter. But I got so derailed by the whole concept of like the Book of Hours that that's all I've been thinking about and reading about and researching for the past 24 hours. So I'm completely unprepared to talk about these chapters. Um, on that note, does anybody in this group um, keep the the watches, the hours, follow those liturgical prayers throughout the day, um, or at least have some familiarity with them such that it shed light on the chapter?
No.
No. I think Jill has some more familiarity with it. Um, I would not be surprised if she's not here because we haven't been meeting for so many weeks that it's not on her calendar anymore.
Wait, we started with the Wandering Christian, right?
Yes.
Okay.
So it says, um, silence, silence, the night. Next night, a silence so loud I thought it would destroy me. Since he had come, coming in out of the insect singing desert, he had done nothing, had said nothing. Whatever else, I would live canonically. I said Martins. That's the word that I had to go, oh, what does that mean again? And then he says, between Martins and Lauds, I broke. So I'm not totally sure, but I think this is the prayer between when you first wake up and then like the sunrise. Um, so assuming you wake up before sunrise, it's Martins, and then the sun is up at Lauds. So it's kind of like a morning twilight period where this is happening. Does that check out with everyone else, or is anyone saying like, no, that's not it? The
I
reason
think you got it.
Okay, the reason I was confused is because apparently some of these terms have kind of been redefined over time. So it might have meant something else in the Middle Ages than it does now.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go out. Okay, go ahead, David.
If I'm on my game at all, I am only really ever doing the morning and the evening ones. But that's if I'm really with it. There's differences in the prayers from east to west. There's differences, like people in a monastery will do something way more involved, and then lay people will do a reduced version, and that's fine. So I don't know what schedule he's specifically referring to because there's a lot of different ones, but there could be like first hour prayers, third hour prayers, sixth hour prayers, ninth hour prayers, evening prayers, midnight prayers. There's a lot, and sometimes those get combined together so that you're saying all the prayers, you're just not doing them. Like maybe you only have two prayer periods or three. So to compress all the schedule together, you might say several of them at once.
Well, that's good to know because it does seem like this is a very kind of time between times kind of a story. So I wonder if saying between Martins and Lauds is kind of like saying between twilight and dark, or like between um, that liminal period where you're not quite sure how long it to be. And so if he's holding out to talk, because he does say at some point it's a stubborn silence waged between two people, and then he like gives in and has to talk. That it's like can't hold out that long before the questions come out.
Another thing is people in the extreme north, they do wake up before the sun rises for like a lot of the year because they have, like, the sun is gone for so many hours and then it comes up, but it's mid-morning or, in the dead of winter. It's extreme in that way.
I'm telling you, that's all I've been reading about for the past 24 hours. So I'm trying to reel back and concentrate on the chapter because I could talk about this for quite some time. So, what did you guys think about this chapter? And this, was he a John the Baptist kind of figure with the mention of the insects and the, he said he had a camel's hump, and so in my mind that was like a camel hair garment. So I'm thinking John the Baptist and kind of liminal border crossing places. He specifically says that it's a reference to the scapegoat. He has scapegoat.
Yeah.
And then there's the quote from Leviticus. Yes. So, what did you guys think about this scapegoat wandering Christian?
I mean, that's the thing that stood out to me, but I'm like, I didn't quite know why, like he has sandals made from the scapegoat. So that means he caught the scapegoat and killed it, and made sandals out of it.
They would have found it dead, right? Because they would have driven it off of a cliff.
Oh, they do it off a cliff? Okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah. So he would have can't kill the scapegoat. Like you would have to find the scapegoat unless you were specifically the guy who carried it out there. Because he quotes specifically. Let's read that quote. It says, "And Aaron shall lay both his hands upon the head of the live goat, confess over him all the iniquities of the children of Israel, and all their transgressions in all their sins, putting them upon the head of the goat, and he shall send them away by the hand of a fit man into the wilderness. The goat shall bear upon him all the iniquities into a land not inhabited, and he shall let go the goat into the wilderness." So it does reference the man who's taking him out there, the fit man into the wilderness.
So it doesn't say that they drive him off a cliff, but is that what they do?
Yeah, it's in other scriptures, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Another, just with his camel's hump. That reminded me of like it's easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle. And it's like he has all these sins in his hump, right? Is that what he said? Or so that's what's, I don't know, that's the connection I made. I didn't know if he was referencing that.
Is anyone else reading it as like this guy is the scapegoat, like the personified scapegoat, or is that by?
Yeah, I thought that.
Okay. I'm sure there's different ways you can read it. So I'm just doing a reading comprehension check on my own part. So if he is the scapegoat and he's kind of had all of these harmful, hurtful theologies sort of foisted on him to carry them out into the wilderness, he says he's living in the desert as I do. It is all I have to draw on. In times of starvation and drought, it is all I have to draw on. It seems like Moriarty is saying that we live in this, I think later in another chapter, he calls it like the high noon, where only the zenith of, rationalistic, materialistic thinking is permitted. So that's kind of the scorched desert that we're all in. So when we're all in this scorched desert of modern materialistic understanding of things, all we have to draw on, like him, is our bad theologies. Is that how you would interpret this? Or is it just the scapegoat who's doing this? I want to say it's like a picture of everyone, a picture of all of us in this situation, that we're all out in the desert this way.
Yeah.
And by us, I guess I mean Western society. Yeah, I really enjoyed this chapter because I liked the reference to the burning bush.
Yeah.
That's something we've talked about in this group for quite some time, is the symbolism of the
Tommy, he's from the land of Aazale. I think of it as a realm. The scapegoat is sent to pay Aazale.
Hello?
Hi.
Hey, sorry about that. My headphone speaker setup died on me.
Oh,
Did I miss anything?
I was just reading Tommy's comment about the scapegoat.
Ah, yes. Right. So, Aazale is a word that it shows up in scripture, and sometimes it's just translated as wilderness, and then sometimes it's translated as a proper noun, like a name. So there's quite a bit of rabbit hole there if you want to follow that further. So I was going to talk about bushes for a minute, burning or otherwise. Talked in this group about the symbolism of like the burning bush as the paradox. It burns, but it is not consumed. So burning, you would think it consumes, but it doesn't. Hey, welcome. So
Anna,
what'd you say?
Wait, were you just talking?
Yes.
Okay, you said, we talked about the symbolism of and then.
Oh, weird. Okay.
Quiet.
I'm here. Sorry, I don't know what's going on with my mic.
Sorry.
Thanks for letting me know. And welcome to our new person.
Hello.
Hey, so we are reading through Martin Shaw's reading list, which the book that we're on right now is called Dreamtime. I forgot what it was called for a good minute there. It's called Dreamtime by John Moriarty. And we are a good ways into it at this point, and we're just talking about the chapter and the symbolism in it. And I was about ready to preface on the concept of the burning bush. We've talked about this as being the representation of the paradox, where the bush burns, but it is not consumed. So that paradox we've kind of followed as so the burning bush would be a microcosm of the tree of life. And we've extended this out to like the paradox of the Virgin Mary, who is a virgin and yet she's pregnant, and to Jesus, who is God and also a human. And so we've sort of expanded this image out, and we've put a lot of meaning into the symbol of the burning bush. So it was really struck me when we were talking about burning bushes in this chapter, but these bushes are being consumed. And the way he talks about this scapegoat in this dry, burning wilderness, where he's taking out all of these harmful theologies and they are slowly sort of burning off that which does not, and I'm going to go out on a limb here, that which does not make an actual hypostatic union, the perfect paradox where the opposites meet and they join intentionally. Um, it's like everything that doesn't do that goes out to this wilderness and does get burned up. That was the impression I got. And that's why I think he says at the end of the chapter, um, the stars don't seem to hurt these nights. And I think I know why. I have an image of him walking away. He was who he said he was. In lands not inhabited, he wanders, bearing upon him and within him all our cosmologies that hurt or inhibit or darken the stars. So that was my reading. What do you guys think? What did you get out of the bush that burns all the way up? That's not a paradoxical bush.
Forgive me if I'm being naive, but isn't a bush that burns kind of normal? I wouldn't see what's significant about that.
Yeah. It is a normal bush. So this this book is very sort of non-linear the way it's told, and he's kind of gives us little snapshots. So this snapshot doesn't have a whole lot of clues in it. So we're really trying to unpack what little it's only a couple paragraphs long, this chapter. So we're just trying to suss out what could potentially be the meaning of bringing up the imagery of the burning bush, but instead of it being a miraculous bush, it's a bush that really is being consumed. So we're sort of being invited.
Well, wouldn't sorry.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just thinking, okay, well, looking at it from that perspective, I guess the normal meaning behind a bush that burns is, well, a bush just grows naturally. You could say it represents nature. And fire is like a type, I mean, fire consumes. So maybe it's like the lion and the ox in the cherubim, one is. But the thing is, at least with a lion, when it consumes a bull, the bull turns into the body of the lion. But with a bush, once it's consumed by fire, it goes away, like smoking. Once you smoke the cigarette, it goes away, and you don't really like integrate anything of the cigarette. It kind of just gets consumed, and that's it. So that's all I can think of.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I think that's almost like the hope here, as we're dealing with our hump of bad theologies, as it says. And I think our scapegoat character is taking those things out in the desert to be consumed and hopefully go away to dust. And then, as Tommy said, this is the scapegoat sent to Aazale, which is essentially like dust, sent to dust. So, in the next chapter, or maybe it's the next one, we're going to talk a bit about. It's the next. The next chapter is about water and rocks, and I think we even get to Medusa as a symbol. So I'm jumping ahead and thinking about turning to dust as what happens to the stone after Medusa, looks at something. It turns to stone, and the stone turns to dust. So that's kind of the rolling out process there.
I think just one thought I had was like it was just mentioned, it's just a regular bush. It's just a regular bush that burns. And I feel like that's what he's talking about in the next chapter. Like everything has just become, just a rock, just a, and so maybe it's just kind of alluding to the same thing. Like everything has lost its Dreamtime quality. It just burns like a regular bush,
Yes. Mundane, yeah. Oh, and thanks for that quote, Tommy. That's the one I was referring to earlier. I'm going to go ahead and read the quote Tommy put in the chat. In Europe, the human psyche has undergone a Miltonic Cartesian clean sweep. Everything except conscious high noon, fixed forever at the zenith, has been banished to the infernal jail. Our souls are dried away. And Tommy says this is an example of disenchantment. Yeah, so the idea, it fits in perfectly with Mathieu's book in the very first couple of chapters, where he talks about the material worldview and looking at our world distanced to telescope or microscope. That's the high noon that Moriarty is talking about here. It's the completely materialistic worldview.
So if I'm reading this first section of the three, and we're talking about, there's a little bit of ambiguity about, is he talking about himself or someone else?
Mhm.
Someone else that he keeps referring to, it must be silence. He mentions it several times, and silence maybe being emptiness. The wilderness has an empty quality about it. Maybe he's connecting those things. Just throwing that up.
That's a good point. It reminds me of that chapter on the Tenebrae. Was that the last chapter? It is, yeah, the very chapter before this, but it's been so many weeks since we last read it. It might be worth revisiting. The Tenebrae is the ritual of extinguishing a candle. There's like a candelabra, and we're going through extinguishing them one by one through the hours of darkness. And this is something done on the Saturday between Good Friday and Resurrection Sunday. So this is the quiet, somber, dark night of the soul. So I think that dark night of the soul is where Moriarty might be with this silence.
As far as the wilderness and maybe a number or a time that would go with, you think about the wilderness being connected to 40 and a time of preparation or purification. So there's like wandering in the wilderness for 40 years as a preparation. And that's connected with a lot of things, like the Lenten fast is 40 days. So it's a preparation for the coming of Christ, and then there's 40 days after the resurrection to the ascension, which is like the resurrection is the preparation to ascension, or the purification. Anyway, those are common wildernessy things. I don't know if they're going to come up. Just putting that out there as well.
That's helpful because we have to kind of question, what is Moriarty getting at? We're always approaching something, it seems, one out of joint snapshot at a time. So as he's sort of layering all these different images, we have to keep reminding ourselves that there is a overarching story here. So he seems to really, really think that we've done a violence by skipping over the what is the name of the Saturday between Good Friday and Easter Sunday?
We just call it Holy Saturday.
Holy Saturday. I didn't know if it had a name. It's probably just Holy Saturday. So he thinks we're doing a disservice by skipping over that like quiet darkness. You know, the moment of careful waiting, maybe. And if we are in this, if we're equating that Saturday, that tentative waiting, with the scorched wilderness with its high noon materialism, is he saying that we are hopeful of a coming resurrection day that we can only appreciate if we have properly made our Tenebrae temple? I got a "I think so" from Tommy.
And in this week's reading, I was kind of thinking, like, I think I agree with everything you said, like how he thinks we've done this disservice. But in this week's reading, I thought it almost sounded like the place we're in now is that Tenebrae moment, you know, like
Yeah, that's what
right.
I want to say that. If I didn't say that, then I missed the mark there.
Okay, maybe you did, and maybe I'm just
Well, it's just connecting all the images together, so that the exile in the wilderness is scorching hot, and it's also the darkness in the Tenebrae.
Yeah,
because those are two different postcard images in my mind. One of them is in a dark stone cathedral with everyone's in garb and they're extinguishing the candles and chanting prayers, and the other one is out in a Middle Eastern desert, with scorching sun and camel hair. So to unify those images, they're the same thing. The hopeless materialism that we're stuck in is the wilderness, is the Matthew's exile that he is always talking about.
yeah, okay.
It is cool how much this dovetails with language of creation. I mean, really, language of creation is so universal. There's nothing that it can't dovetail into. But this one really seems to harmonize well. So I want to go out of order a little bit and go to our third chapter, which is the sword and the stone. And I just want to focus on the introduction. It's like the first two paragraphs of this chapter. I'll go ahead and read those out loud. All time is once upon a time. At all stages of their evolution and involution, all worlds are once upon a time worlds. All things are once upon a time things. The bucket I take to the well is a once upon a time bucket. I never know till I've hauled it what beckonings might be in it. Once upon a time thinks us. Asleep and awake, it dreams us. It lives us. When once upon a time thinks you, dreams you, lives you, you are, being a man, Merlin. You are, being a woman, Morgan Le Fay. Yeah, I knew Tommy would love that quote. um, I jumped to that out of context just in case we didn't have time to get to our third chapter, which often we talk about. We always read 3 chapters each week, and I usually only get through chapter 1 in our discussion group before I have to go. So I wanted to make sure we got to that. So if we are sort of holding opposite each other, the idea of material high noon on the one side and once upon a time things on the other. What does that look like? Have you guys thought about these two things in opposition? I'm willing to bet if Tommy could talk, he would. Does anyone have any thoughts on the once upon a time? Just more generally?
Seems like once upon a time is kind of referring to a state where people kind of know an idea about something that happened in the past, but they're so disconnected from it that it's described as once upon a time. Almost as though it's not real.
Yeah, actually the real and not real seems to be the whole point, isn't it? The scorching wilderness worldview says if it's not real, then it isn't. Whereas once upon a time, as you said, calls into question what is real and what is, instead of what is real, what is meaningful. What's the story that's going to be told here?
Maybe there's
Hey,
a Kairos
I'm here.
part of this. Go ahead, Tommy.
No, I hear what you had to say.
There's this concept of like remembering the future. So we are presented with the end of the story when we think about eschatology, when we think about the end time. Like there's a point in the future, but we're living it, or we already know about it. We're remembering the future. We're also doing that with things that we remember from the past, but we're bringing them to the present. So there's like the day-to-day time, and then there's the time that's more outside of that, which we have talked about before, but maybe that's what the once upon a time is.
Yeah, I'm right there with you on Kairos time. Well, Tommy, now that you have your mic, you want to go for it?
Yeah, sure. So I think yes to everything that's been said so far. What we will start doing is all these conversations that we've had in the Discord involving the Imaginal, enchantment. Today somebody started talking about like dreams and what dreams have to do with self-reflection, and that is a space above the material. And so the first chapter and the second chapter that we read are dealing, because in that quote that I posted, he's talking about the Cartesian model. And the Cartesian model is very much the eradication of the meaning of things and just the material. So what Moriarty is talking about with this idea of like once upon a time and the imaginal space and in the stuff that he's talking about with the scapegoat is coming out of a land of meaninglessness and disenchantment and finding meaning again. This is what we've called the meaning crisis, is that in order to put the meaning back in, it has to come from somewhere. And this idea of imagining and what David is talking about with like remembering the future, that's very much what like the imagination is doing, is we're looking at past stories, the once upon a time, and then we're trying to integrate it currently so that it can fix the future, which is what the scapegoat does. We take the past sins, put it on the goat, send it out into the wilderness so that the being that's out in the wilderness, or the wilderness itself, doesn't consume us. We pay the wilderness to not disenchant the world and like make everything meaningless.
Cool. Yeah, I'm following the story you're weaving. Seems to fit.
When you guys are using the word imaginal or imagination, can you guys explicate what you mean by that a bit more?
Yeah. So when you imagine, it's not just pretending. The things that you do in your imagination can problem solve. They can analyze. They can diagnose. They can predict. And all that happens separate from the physical world. Like, in order to do that, you don't have to manipulate any sort of physical material. So this idea of the imagination or the imaginal really comes from it's a lot like daydreaming or the art of, like, the thing that you do before you create something artistic. It's like thinking, but it involves. See, this is the problem with this word imagination is that it has been disenchanted also. And so if you go back and you read like 17th century poets, they'll talk about this idea of the imagination in a much more broad sense.
I see. So I think from reading like church fathers and stuff, would it be accurate to say that what you're talking about in the Western tradition is usually talked about as like the intellect or the mind, and then in the East is talked about as the nous, you know?
Yeah, mind would be a good one. Intellect is kind of restricted to reason and logic, at least for the modern world.
I see.
But mind is a very good one. But the imaginal is very much connected to creativity. So when you want to create something, it starts in the imagination.
Okay. I think I get where you're coming at. Like, yeah. Okay. So you're saying that we should, because I think what you're saying, I'm more used to as hearing as being noetic or to do with the mind. But yeah, this is a very interesting thing. May I share some of the things that have helped to enchant my life?
Please, I'd love to hear it.
This is very anecdotal, so it's not like it's anything like serious. But I mean, I've just noticed that being part of like a community, like a in-person church community, and like, finding people that really, really, really themselves also have found meaning in Christ and trying to be like Christ. That is something that has made life way more meaningful, because it could be like, I think the stereotype about people that try to seek spirituality, right, if we're going to use that term, is like people are trying to look for like signs and wonders and for like crazy experiences. But sometimes it's actually just the daily stuff, the daily mundane act of kindness, you know, and the thought that's behind it that can really make life very enchanting. Like like one of my friends, for example, has an exam. He's a bit worried about it. He's doing his finals. And the idea that, not the idea, but the reality that you can pray for someone in a circumstance like that, and see the prayer actually yield fruit, and that by praying and kind of setting aside time to remember someone, and asking like Christ have mercy on them, that's very enchanting. But I can't really put it into words because it's something that I think words do a disservice to explain.
I love that. And I think that really is, right at the bone of it. I think one of the symptoms of our um, modernity specifically on Christianity is that it's created an idea that um, prayers are either uh, answered or not answered, and it makes a like false dichotomy um, towards your interactions. with God and with the spiritual. And because of that, you're more likely to say, well, my prayers haven't been answered in some kind of material thing that I can see. Therefore, I should stop doing this. I should stop, and I'm going to attenuate my participation in my religion. But if you don't see it as materially yes or no creating results, and instead you see it as participating in this once upon a time, in this remembering the future, in this being with someone in spirit of communion with someone, putting that person in your imaginal space and remembering them, reconstituting them in your mind, in your person, and therefore in your community. You have embodied by remembering, and the engagement, the kind of attention that you give things is itself the powerful thing. It's not the waiting for a material result. Do you guys think that's fair, or have I gone out on a limb?
Oh no,
I
that's
think what
great.
you're describing is true, but I would say that I think I'm kind of returning back to what I said at the end of my statement is the thing that I came to an impasse with symbolism, right? Because I realized I was looking so much into symbolism that me looking into it was me intellectualizing
Mhm.
symbolism. And then I just came to the realization, like, there's people in my parish who they don't mind when I talk about symbolism with them, but they're always looking at me and they're like, bro, why are you talking about what we're doing? Why don't we just do it? You know,
Yeah.
Yep.
that's what they're like to me. They're always like, you know, these are mysteries. Like now I get why it's called a mystery. Because there's not a mystery doesn't mean that it's beyond understanding. It's more like it's beyond words, or it's beyond words to explain. And so I think everything you said is correct. But it's just one of those things where I've realized, like, there are certain things where by talking about the mystery, you remove the mystery. And you can only really have the mystery in just doing it. And I think, in at least in the tradition I'm in, I'm Orthodox, right? Before we receive communion, there's a prayer that's said, and one of the things that have always stood out to me ever since I joined the church was there's a prayer that says I will not give you a kiss as did Judas, nor will I speak of your mysteries to my enemies. But like the faithful I confess thee, remember me, O Lord, in thy kingdom, not unto judgment, nor unto condemnation, but unto the healing of soul and body. That prayer has always been like fascinating to me. 'Cause it's like, what do you mean you're not gonna speak of the mysteries to your enemies? And I understand that more as I've dived into symbolism, that every time I get a symbolic insight, unless I'm gonna maybe express it in an artistic fashion, like if I'm gonna make a comic book like Jonathan is doing, or I'm gonna like turn it into some sort of media, it's like me just talking about it. It's like I'm stripping the power of it, and rather it's better to just do it. And people around, and I think this is the same thing with Christ himself. Like the cross was always a part of reality. The fact that people have to suffer in order not the fact that willful self-suffering, self-sacrifice yields fruit, that's always been a part of reality. It's always this is why people love sports, this is why people love Olympics, this is why people love cooking. These are all examples of sacrifice that yields fruit, that yields a unity, that yields something that leads into higher unities. But Christ himself knew that in becoming man and talking and making manifest what was hidden, people are gonna hate him for it. And it's like I'm seeing it play out on a fractal level, I feel like. But yeah, sorry, I'm yapping.
That's beautiful. Thank you.
I found it to be a great way to be late. Thank you.
Hi, Jill.
Hi. I love you guys. This is awesome.
I think is it Io? What you were saying, I mean I totally agree with. And I think it also goes with the second chapter in this in what we read. Don't you guys? Like,
Please go on.
well, because the second chapter was the most poignant to me. And it's because he's talking about the wandering in the wilderness and how the people were used to experiencing God and their religion in these kind of miraculous ways, you know, like fiery serpents and parting the Red Sea and all of these things. And then all of a sudden they're just like in the scorching desert, you know?
Yeah.
And like you said, we're always looking for that like very special kind of magical, well, not, I don't want to say, I guess, you know, we're always looking for like a fiery serpent, a sign, I think he said. But I think what I learned from that chapter was like, God is showing them that like he's here in the desert too, you know? He's in the mundane. Like that's, you know?
Yes.
So how you were saying with your congregation, and I experienced this too. It's like, yeah, it's just in these everyday living, you know, with your people.
Yes, and one thing, I mean, I don't know if this even relates, but something about the internet, I think, has a massive, 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 um, has had a massive impact on the disenchantment that we're all experiencing and talking about. Um, I think I saw there's this like Orthodox Twitter account that really loves symbolism, and he made an insight that I think has been true, and I don't think there's been any way for me to find like a way to disprove it, but he basically has said that all the things that are implicit in the experiential life of being, let's say, a Christian, technology has made explicit. And so people are interacting with the explicit version of it, that's been, you know, made into a body called a computer, rather than participating in that which is hidden and mystical. Um, and I'll give an example because it's quite abstract. But the main one that really got me was social media and iconography. And I'll go with the social media one. You know, social media is basically a mimicry of fellowship, like real life fellowship, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And although social media can yield a conversation like this, where I'm in the UK and you guys are probably from America, um, I think the disenchantment comes with you have friends that live in your city, and because it's more convenient for you to hop on Discord or to be on WhatsApp or to use whatever messaging service you use, you're more comfortable talking in a in a in a impersonal way. And so you can be like brushing your teeth or even on the toilet and talking to your friend, and they don't have to see the discomfort or the awkwardness of that. They're just hearing your voice like a disembodied angel or something like that. You know, it's almost like if you were to put biblical language on the technology that we have today, I think it'd be very telling the what technology is playing the role of, and it's something that I've been very cautious of. Um, and I wonder what you guys think about that. That technology, at least like digital media, digital technology, has a major role to play in our disenchantment.
I would agree. Um, I I think finding the um, let's see, you want to say finding the balance, but then you don't want to find the balance between your indulgent junk food and the food you're supposed to be eating, right? You're supposed to not eat the indulgent junk food, right? Um, so um, part of the difficulty in finding the balance is putting the value in the right places. Um, so if you are using technology to um, access communities that you wouldn't be able to normally, and those communities are doing edifying things for you, then yes, then you need to find a way to balance that. But if you are, there was such a great passage from the last Martin Shaw book we read about sort of the pitfalls of technology as the spyglass, I think. And that you don't need to balance that. You need to get rid of it, you know? So the we all have our camel's hump, right? That you're not really supposed to have, but it nourishes you in the desert. So weeding out what is in the process of helping you versus what's just in the process of hurting you can only be found out in time, right? Well, I do want to do one more. Oh no, I actually don't have time. I always have to leave at 2:30 because I'm on a schedule with my family and kids. So usually about this time, I give us our next chapters for the coming week, and people usually have time to stay and keep talking sometimes for another hour. So you guys are welcome to keep doing that. We are going to be reading the next 3 chapters for next week, which I will post in the Martin Shaw thread, which is, I'll put a link to the Martin Shaw thread in the chat here. And let's see here. Okay, so the other thing I need to mention before I hang up is I would like for us to try to meet next week, the 18th, if that's okay with you guys, and then we'll take off the next 2 weeks for winter holidays, Christmas and New Year's and kids being on vacation, et cetera, et cetera. So hopefully see you guys next week. We'll read 3 more chapters, and thanks for chatting, everyone.
Thanks, Anna. Thank you.
Thanks, Anna.
Bye, all. And it was nice to meet you. Was it Ao or Io?
Yeah, Io.
Io. It was nice to meet you, Io. And see you next week. Bye.
See you. This is the first time I've talked in here. I've been in here for a long time, but I've never actually talked in here.
Oh. Well, welcome. You have good things to say. Thanks for sharing.
Glory to God.
Does anybody want to talk about the second chapter or more of the third?
Sure.
Unfortunately, I haven't read through this. I don't know. Sorry, what was the book again that you guys are reading?
It's called Dreamtime by John Moriarty, and it's available on Kindle, which is how a lot of us are reading it. You could probably find it in print as well, but we're somewhere in there. We've been discussing this 3 chapters at a time for, I don't know, this is probably like our 6th or 7th session. So we're 20 something chapters in. They're short chapters.
Nice.
Well, yeah. Who has thoughts? Because I kind of have random ones, but.
I just had one thought. He starts out, we've picked these triplets, 3 chapter things kind of arbitrarily, like the book's doesn't have a guide at the front that says read 3 at a time, but we've chosen to do that. But in this 3 chapters, he starts out with reading the hours, which is like the everyday, the thing you do every day. And then there's some talk of these different times. The goat going, they're kind of correspond with like the calendar. And then he mentions in the third one, Whitsunday, which I looked up, and that is Pentecost. And so he's like the same progression that we've been talking about, going from like the mundane and to a more Kairos time that's like cyclical that we revisit. I don't know. He kind of made that arc in these 3 chapters. Anyway, that was the only thing I noticed. But you, Candace, said that the second one made the biggest impact on you. So what would you like to say about that?
I mean, I think it just it's just like hitting home of like where I'm at in my life. Yeah, I really liked the first part where he's just quoting the scriptures of like they were in let me find it.
This is the rock following.
Yeah, Altjeringa rock.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so they were in the desert of Zin, and there was no water for the congregation, and they gathered themselves together against Moses and against Aaron. And the people chode with Moses and spake, saying, Would God that we had died when our brethren died before the Lord. And why have ye brought up the congregation of the Lord into this wilderness, that we and our cattle should die there? And wherefore have ye made us to come up out of Egypt, to bring us into this unto this evil place? It is no place of seed, or of figs, or of vines, or of pomegranates, neither is there any water to drink. I was just imagining, the people, like where they came from. It was like they had everything, like they had all the needs met, just like living in this abundance. And then it's like, yeah, now they're taken into this like complete kind of horrible situation, and so I don't know. I really, I thought it was just cool how he was showing. I'm trying to find like another quote. Well, maybe. Yeah, okay, it was on the second page, or at least in the Kindle. There were times in this wilderness when the people felt their souls were dried away. Then, sitting disconsolate in the doors of their tents, they would remember the fish which they did eat in Egypt freely. They would remember the cucumbers and the melons and the leeks and the onions and the garlic. Their souls were dried away, but their God, he of the mighty hand and the outstretched arm, he was with them. His mountain sometimes was all on fire, sometimes it quaked greatly, so that in holy dread the people would remove themselves and stand afar off. Near and afar, stiff-necked though they were learning to submit to their God's intentions for them. Such a God, earthquakingly awful, yet loving. I don't know. I guess I can't. It's just better to read his words. Yeah, on the third page, I think was kind of where I started highlighting things. So I'll read another quote. Surrounded, assaulted almost by such spectacularly numinous momentous events, the people were beginning to lose their capacity and appetite for ordinariness. This was a tragedy. The precedent was set. Here in this wilderness of scorpions and fiery serpents, we had, as it were, been given religious permission to seek for spiritual authenticity in signs and in wonders. Wonders and signs Gautama, the Buddha, would have sought to wean us from. A capacity for ordinariness is an Easter morning gift. And I highlighted that part. And then he goes on, meanwhile, the extraordinary, a rock perceived to be extraordinary, the rock that followed and nourished the children of Israel in the wilderness. Because he talks about they smote the rock and the water comes out. So he says, Europeans also, we also have come up out of somewhere into a desert of Zin. We most certainly have come up out of the commonage consciousness of Altamira and Lascaux into a great and terrible res extensa desert of Cartesian clarities. I'll stop there for a minute because those were things I had to kind of look up. So I think what I liked was him just showing that, yeah, that's how life is. Like you know, all your needs are met and then you got to go into the desert and it sucks. But like, you have to learn that God is still there, you know?
I was thinking that having your needs provided is nourishment from your provider, the real provider, but we're so easily distracted by taking care of ourselves or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
We're almost blinded by having everything, but yet it's a gracious thing that he will, through the years, supply our needs in a very unconscious way. We're not conscious, and yet with that very knowledge, you can choose to trust him when things go strangely upside down in your life. The reversal, the dry time.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, the dry time, maybe when it strips away the distraction, maybe it is when you stop looking at the gift and start looking at the giver. I've been wrestling with this idea lately because I don't think I could find him without him revealing himself. I think I'm too weak or self-protective or something. Anyway, I always appreciate, Candace, what you point at, because I've been really working on wrestling with what the rock is as a pattern. The stone, and then this is a rock that follows and nourishes them. So he's even behind them, not showing himself, just doing it in a hidden way. I think that hiddenness, he's really not hiding. Oh, well, you can
It's just
see.
that he's not
Would
showing
you like to
himself
hear
in
my?
the way you'd want him to. Oh,
Sorry,
sorry.
I'm so sorry. I think my microphone is super loud. Sorry.